Okay, so this is how the airsoft gun works. Let me show you. You got your hop up arm. You got this. This is the barrel part of the gun. You know, this part right here. It should stay right there. That's in an AK. That's what it should look like. There aren't really any pictures of it being in there, but you can kind of assume how it is just by looking at this. Like this is what it should be like. See, this is the whatchamacallit, this is where the hop up should be. This is what it looks like from the back, from the front. Um, how this thing works is the pop-up arm pushes this little thing down, this thing called the nubbing, or yeah, it's a nub or nubbing, whatever. I don't know. People call it. It's not hollow. They can be hollow. Sometimes they are. Sometimes they aren't. It doesn't really matter. It pushes down to the barrel. Okay, like into this little slot in the barrel. Like there's a little slot right there. Barrel. Um, and basically, the nub would fall into the barrel if it weren't for the bucking, which creates a smooth surface. I can't really find a picture of a bucking, but you could probably see it in Treasure Palace. If it's here, it is. This image is called Treasure Palace. Like, see this? This is the part of the bucking. Like, see that right there? And there's a little thing in here. You can't really see it, but there's like a little bit of an outline right here. And basically, it's a tube that goes over the barrel. It's a tube, and it's the tube like this, and that's what protrudes into the barrel. But it usually protrudes with these whatchamacallits, these little things. I call them protrusions, and that's what gives your BB a backspin. So your BB spins backwards. How do you, that's rolling forwards. It spins backwards like this, which gives it flight. It's called the Magnus effect. The Japanese probably invented it. I don't fucking know. No, they didn't. I'm messing with you. And basically, what this whole system does, it looks pretty complex. It's not. There's like just a mechanism. There aren't really any moving parts, other than this air nozzle. And the air nozzle blocks the BBs. Okay, it blocks them from going in there. And when you shoot, what happens is it pulls it back. Like you see how this is a gear. Gears spin, right? You see there's a little whatchamacallit right in front of here? Well, this whatchamacallit goes right here on this whatchamacallit. See, it's kind of like the same surface a little bit, but it's not really. Basically, it goes on here, and then it pulls this thing back, and it's spring-loaded, okay? It's completely spring-loaded. That's when you pull the trigger, and I'll get to the trigger part. It's really just contacts. Like there's two little brass things, like one here and then one here, and basically, actually I gotta draw it. They're contacts. They're just contacts, man. You can look up how contacts work. They have a certain kind of them, and this certain kind of them has two red wires that goes to it, and the black wire goes to the motor. Like it just goes to the motor. Like it comes straight from the battery, goes to the motor. Like this, it goes through this thing right here. This is how a version 6 works, or whatever. And they all have some form of contacts that require you to pull the trigger. And basically, that makes the motor spin, and it moves these gears. They go back like this. This one goes back, and this one goes forward, and this one goes back, and this one pulls back the piston. Okay, so the first modification you do to this is correct angle of engagement. Fuck it. Airsoft angle of engagement. Alright, this is perfect angle of engagement. You see how the top of this tooth is contacting this? This maximizes the surface area in between them, which basically means it's going to wear it down less in one spot. Because if this wears it down significantly, and I mean significantly, it's going to get fucked, okay? It's just going to break. It's not going to be usable anymore. Just look up stripped piston. It like all the teeth are all fucked on the plastic thing, on the piston. And basically what you do is, you see how there's a little space right here? If you were to move this thing forward, you would, okay, you see how the teeth, like this is a circular thing. You know how circles work, right? A circle, you put a circle next to a fuck. You get a circle and place it next to a thing, right? Well, basically, you measure the distance between this, 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 and this. They're farther away, okay? And basically, the teeth only start on one side of the sector gear, okay? On one side of it. Or I did that thing the wrong way. It's like this. And basically, you need to get the first tooth to contact it really good, because the first tooth is the one that's going to fuck it up, right? That handle, that's all of the stress on there, all of it. And if it can't take the first tooth, it's not going to do the rest, okay? It just isn't. It's going to fuck up the second tooth because it's got really bad angle of engagement with it. Basically, what you want to happen is you need the first tooth contacting it, the big tooth, this big fucking like reinforced tooth in the back. You need the first one contacting that properly, which requires you to okay, you know how shit. What the fuck? What is this shit? I tried to drag something on it here and it didn't work. It requires you to push this thing back, and when you push this thing back, okay, let's pretend this is me pushing it back. Fuck. I'm bad at everything. I'm so bad at everything. Whatever. You get the teeth to roll farther up here, and the teeth are like up here and shit. So you just erase this, right? And the teeth are all the way up here. They're all the way over here. And oh look, now because the teeth were farther away previously, right? They're farther away. Like you see, this is farther from this, and this is farther. There's no angle of engagement right here. Well, guess what? The teeth are farther up, so it gives it better angle of engagement. Like that's just how it works. You know, if you were to move this thing around, like if you move this thing around, you'd see that the space between the top of this tooth and this will decrease when you move the piston farther forward. So if you push it back with a sorbethane pad, which has the added bonus of cushioning the piston, which makes it last a lot longer, especially the gearbox shell. All version 2 shells, every single one of them. If you have to use a version 2, you shouldn't make the decision to use it. They're garbage, okay? They're flimsy. The front of them breaks off. I have a picture that illustrates this well. Look at the extra reinforcement. This isn't like a thing right here. I was just dumb at the time. This isn't like break, but see how there's no metal up here, right? There's metal here, and see the size difference between this and this. Not really the size difference, it's actually the same size, but you can tell there's like a bit of weird reinforcement. Like there's a little extra layer of metal right here. There's some shit here too. There's no shit here. This is the part that breaks, okay? So this is where all the stress goes, and basically these things aren't going to go, but they're drop proof. It's going to make them more drop proof. This isn't drop proof. This is more drop proof. The motor is attached to this thing. Again, more drop proofness, but it's also better for angle of engagement. As in M4s and fucking M4s, the problem with them is the motor's not attached to the grip. That's one of the problems. It's stupid. And also, this is the nozzle which is attached to the tappet plate, and there's the thing right here for the spring goes here, and like right here, this is where the tappet plate goes. Like, you know, you got the like that spring, you know. I wish I could show you a picture of an airsoft gun with a fucking tappet plate in it. Why do they remove the fucking tappet plate? These goddamn idiots. Whatever. The motor is in the grip. And what if the grip is wobbly? Which they all are. All grips are wobbly to an extent. Some of them are noticeable, some of them aren't. You'd probably have to get a fucking microscope to measure wobble in like some guns if they're really, really good. Or you'd have to be like a mile away to not see the wobble if they're really, really bad. And basically that affects the angle of engagement in the fucking motor thing, okay? Since this thing is right here, it's staying right here. The distance between, I love how this thing doesn't even have the fucking thing sticking out. Like, it doesn't have the shit. God, fuck. Airsoft version 3 gearbox. I gotta show you this thing. Basically, what the motor does, there's this thing called a bevel gear. Yeah, it's called the bevel gear. And it seems like I don't know what I'm talking about, but I do. It's this thing right here, and this is what it does. Like, this is the motor it does. It goes in here, it turns this gear, this turns this gear, this turns that gear. And basically, when you have the fucking motor not at a certain angle, it's not held in place, so it's variable. Okay, this is held in place. This is screwed right in there. So this thing is not gonna like wobble with the grip, right? So it's not going to fuck up your angle of engagement, so it's not going to increase wear and tear on this gear. You don't want this shit to strip. You don't want anything to strip on here. And it's going to be a lot quieter. Okay? Version 3 gearboxes, sorry to say this, they're quieter than version 2s. They just are. They're just more quiet. There's less stress on this tooth because of that. Okay, and even if they aren't, you can fix it more easily. You know how? You know how version 2 users adjust the motor height? There's a fucking screw inside the grip. Okay? And let me show you an M4. Let me show you an M4. Let me show you the problem with this. This grip is a different part of the gun. Okay? When you take apart the gun, you have to unscrew the grip. Okay? It's separate. So this shit has to be the spec. Okay? And it's not the spec. It's just a gun. I know, like, some people will be like, "Go, the Crytek's pretty good." Fuck you. Fuck you. You spent $300 for something a $80 gun could do. Yeah, an $80 gun. No, I'm not fucking with you. An $80 gun. A Airsoft GI was selling, I spelled this thing wrong. It's going to send me to a virus website. It's going to give me AIDS. I'm selling CMO28s for $80, okay? These fuckers were going for $80. This specific one, this one, was going for $80 on here. That was superior. There's no such thing as extra quality. Okay, oh, Crytek barrel is better. Fuck you, I'll get another barrel. You know how much extra money I have? You spent $250 on a gun. I spent $80 on my gun. Do you know what that math is? Do you know what that is? Okay, let's say we get an edgy barrel. You know what edgy barrel is? It's the best barrel for airsoft. Just the best ones. $130. 130 plus 80 equals 210. You spent 250. If I were to do any modifications to my gun, any standard modifications, which is what this video is, they're actually modifications are very easy. They're very cheap. You should do them, definitely. Learn how to do them. I already have the video on how to do them. Link in the description. Basically, what happens? What this means is, my barrel is better than yours. My gun, the actual like gearbox is better than yours. The version 3. I already went over this. I got an AK versus M4 videos in the description. Check that out too. This thing will last longer than your gun, and it will perform better than your gun, even though your gun costs more. That's just the bottom line. That's what it is. Performance and longevity. Those are the two things that make an airsoft gun good. And your gun fails at them. Mine does not. Mine costs less. Mine costs less than yours. Yours costs more. My gun is better than yours. CMO28s are better than Crytek's. No, this is no joke. I know you're gonna be laughing like, oh, he just said that thing and it's crazy. It's what's crazy, therefore he's wrong. No, that's not. That's not it. It's just better. There's nothing wrong with this gun. It may be like quality control, I guess. You get a gun that's shit, but if it's not shit and you know how to do the modifications to it, then it just doesn't matter. I mean, you'd rather get something else like a CMO36, which costs the same, or a CMO31 costs the same. CM 037, 039, 040, 045. They have better constructions on them, like on the outside. Like it's instead of using plastic and pot metal, it's pot metal and it's actually like steel and pot metal, or like pot metal and pot metal, and or sometimes just steel and like other stuff. Whatever. Back to this. So that's one of the modifications you do. Another one, shimming. Airsoft bad shimming. show you an image of bad shimming. Remember how angle of engagement was? Like you had to get maximum contact with the teeth. Well, you have to get maximum contact with between the teeth while minimizing friction. Okay, minimize friction, maximum contact on the teeth. So that means the sector gear. See the bottom part of the sector gear, like not the bottom part as in I'm looking at this. Ooh, it's another gear. This is the spur bevel goes here. Basically, you can't have this flat part, this part right here, and the side that is on the other side, like all the way in the bottom of this. You can't have them contacting, but you have to get these teeth to get as much contact as possible, just like this or whatever. I said it twice, but this is because I said it wrong. You have to do that with all the teeth, all of them. That's not good. And you have to adjust motor height, which it's actually adjustable. The fucking shimming between them. This is Japanese engineering. The shimming between them is controlled by a hex screw. Like you see this right here? It's because it's at an angle like this. And when you get things that are at an angle like this, what happens is if you're to move it forward like this, look, they're closer. What? Why is this shit like always bugging out on me? Look, so you move it forward and oh look, now they're closer together. You move it back, they're farther away. And that's because this is the bevel gear. And this is the piston. Not the piston, the other thing. The motor head or the pinion. This is the pinion gear. Yeah. So this is the pinion right over here, and it's like, oh, I'm a pinion. I move around. I'm part of the motor. And this is the bevel, and the bevel's like, look at me, I'm this thing. He's got teeth down here. These are all teeth. Basically, this you shouldn't really fuck with it. You shouldn't really fuck with the with this thing. You should really just have everything aligned to the standard of this of the bevel, because you can adjust the angle of engagement to this from the motor and the angle of engagement to this from the other teeth. Okay, so you have the spur over here, and the spur's like, hey dude, I gotta do shit, whatever, I'm stupid. The spur is like he's got his other thing up here and he contacts his sector gear. This is the thing I was talking about. It would be very difficult for you to understand it if you're stupid. So this is for stupid people as well. Okay, I'm not biased against the disabled. I want people in wheelchairs and people with Down syndrome to fix their guns as well. Okay, just whatever, man. I really should have done it with that tool. So yeah, you have to get these teeth to line up. Like pretend that this is the sector gear, you know. The sector gear is like, I'm a sector, and he has a sector of teeth. That's what it's called, the sector of gear. You know how there's with the turd sector and the Rhombus nebula or whatever. It's a sector means a place. Well, you can't get them to touch. Like you have to get a space between this and this, but you know, balance it out. You know, and you do the shims, because shims adjust the height of the motor, the height of the teeth. You know, like like that. We'll add more shims on this side up here, and add more shims over here. It's gonna be really tight. Then, or you could just have this not tight, and that's better. You know, that stuff. You see? Basically, you have another whatchamacallit here. See this right here? This is called the anterior reversal latch. Goes right here. This if you didn't notice, the bevel gear has a lot of room for stuff. Okay, a lot of room. And if you see this thing, it's got these things on here. Uh, fuck. You see how it has this little thing, little swirly things on here, like right here in this area, in between this gear and that gear, between the teeth. Basically, they go forward, but they don't go back. Okay, and this thing is spring. It's spring. The anti-reversal latch has a spring on it that pushes it into this tooth. You see, remember how it's all the way up here? Well, it pushes into this bottom part of this tooth. And if you were to see this, we're doing a MS Paint thing. So this thing moves like this, okay, in this direction. So this thing goes click, click, like that. And the more of these things you have, the less wear you have on your motor. Did you know that? Yeah, that's the part of the gun. A part of the gun. The tablet plate. This thing pulls it back. And you got this thing, and the nozzle goes back, and it loads in a BB. I love the Japanese. I'm gonna say someone's gonna edit my video. I'm just kidding. Not that popular. You have the piston. Swiss cheesing your piston. Look it up. They decrease the weight from it to make it wear the gearbox less. And you know how you have to move an object, like you remember, like you know how like you get like a weight on the floor and it's got friction, okay? Instead of friction, it's got a spring on there. So to get this thing moving back, it needs a lot of force. So imagine a weight on the ground, okay? And there's a lot of friction between the weight and the ground, which there usually isn't. Weights are flat. The grounds are like carpeted or some shit. Who the hell lifts weights on like a floor that's like a material, like wood or like rock or metal? Who the fuck does that? That's retarded. So if there was like, what was Velcro on there, then wouldn't reducing the weight really help? Because you have to get the thing moving to have it move. You know, and if you can get this thing moving faster, it's gonna move faster, right? That and the kinetic energy is it is higher impulse. I would agree, it's higher impulse, but it's the same amount of force. You know, it's gonna bounce a lot more, I guess. But this is what people do to make their guns shoot a bit faster and have less wear. That and when people do correct angle of engagement, they usually shave off a tooth like this guy. Like, see, it's taken off. It's because this is, you see how the rotation would go like this? Well, if there's a tooth here, this thing wouldn't be able to contact this, okay? So let's get a Dremel and go, take it off. Done. I think that's about it. That's the whole, nah, I'm just kidding, that's not the whole mechanism. Cylinder right here, you polish it because microscopically everything has mountains and like canyons and trenches and shit and hills. Okay, all of them have it in there. Okay, so what you do is with not polishing, you lap it. Lapping is polishing, which it fills in the cracks, right? But guess what? It's abrasive as well. So for some reason, I don't know how it works, but it takes off the things that are on the top of it, and then fills it in with the polish. And basically, less air escapes, and the air escapes via the canyons, because the mountains would hold up the rubber on the this thing right here. And yeah, the cylinder head, you have a modification that goes right here, and basically it's Teflon taping. What you do is you put some permatex dielectric grease on these O-rings. Okay, you have to take the O-rings off, you stretch them, right? You stretch them out a bit, and then you put some grease where they're supposed to be. Not over here. You don't do that for the piston as much, but you do it for this. And basically what happens is the grease fills up the spaces in between the whatchamacallit, between the cylinder head and the cylinder. Yeah, that's what it was. The cylinder is the tube, obviously. Piston head, cylinder head, nozzle for the cylinder, and the nozzle goes over that nozzle. Contrary to popular belief, it's not really popular. I think some people think this, but the air doesn't push up. Doesn't push the nozzle up. Porting. Don't ever port your cylinder ever. Everyone has a cylinder that is ported. What they do, you see how this cylinder has a hole in it? What that does is it decreases the amount of air that it has in it. Like, you know how this thing is a certain size, and it needs a certain amount of air to push like out of the barrel. Okay, so you could overcome with FPS. That's not a good idea. That's weird. Do not do that. That just means your gun is less accurate because your BB stops accelerating, starts decelerating. And what happens when your BB starts decelerating, as in there isn't air to push it through the barrel, the hop-up starts kicking in, the Magnus effect. So it rises on the top of your barrel, and it takes in all of those inconsistencies, all of them. All of the inconsistencies in your barrel. It's like, it rolls on the fucking top of it. And you don't want your gun to be undervolumed. That's what happens when it's very undervolumed. Because it's a volume of air for here, volume of air for the barrel. You have to calculate that shit. With your BB weight, everything. Has some math in it or some shit. And basically, they reduce it, and it's for using really short barrels. That's the whole thing. It's just short barrels. And even then, you don't need short stuff, because the best BB you can use is a GNG .28. That's just the best for like probably DMRs. It's gonna be like .32s, I guess, or something else, because you'd be spending less money shooting it, because you'd be missing a lot less. But with this thing, when you don't port your cylinder, if you have a cylinder and it's not ported, and you're like, I'm gonna use a short barrel or something, that's what they use for it. It's short barrel. You don't port if your gun has a longer barrel. That's stupid. Basically, you get joule creep. You know what your joule creep gun is? So when you get a short barrel, put on a gun. Well, guess what? You have a larger cylinder volume instead of a shorter barrel. So you get to keep the longer barrel, and you get to have the cylinder on there. So now you can do better joule creep. So if your gun shoots 330 with .20s, it's probably going to shoot like 320 to .28s. And I'm going to show you how much of a jump that is. Also, this is a sorbo. I forgot to mention this, but you have to stick a neoprene pad over the sorbothane pad. Okay, this is a sorbothane. This is number 1. This is number 2. This is the 3. This is the if you have an M120 spring. Okay, this is the other thing I forgot to mention about sorboing. They compress. Okay, they compress when you stick them on there, and you have to get it right. For me, for my calculations, for your gun, if your gun shoots 400 FPS, and it's going to stay at 400 FPS, meaning it was using a M120 spring, so out of the box it was shooting like 460 feet per second. If it had good compression on it, as in like the no air leakage. You can see I did the Teflon tape onto this thing, but basically neoprene is rubber, and rubber protects shit because it's tough as hell. And what you do is you scratch it like this. Like, you see how you actually have to line these things up properly because you don't want it to obstruct the air. You have to scratch it like this. You scratch it with a razor blade. Not scratch it. You cut it. It's so the glue, the cyanoacrylate glue, which is the glue you use because it's actually removable by acetone. It dissolves in acetone, if I recall correctly. I haven't really taken mine off. It is there. This thing will make your gun silent because one of the sounds of an airsoft gun is the piston hitting the cylinder head, which has rubber on it. And it's not rubber, it's hard shit, really hard. This is an AMA thing. I'm a slut AMA. I was like, I can't really render pictures on there. But this is the thing. This is the whatchamacallit, and what you do is you delete the whatchamacallits. So if you're shooting 330 with 0.20s, it's garbage. It's 1 joule. 320 with 0.28s, that's 1.3 joules. You just increase your power by 33%. 33%. Okay. So I don't really know what the exact calculation for this is, but perfect voluming with a 0.28 is great. You get to use your spring to its maximum potential, and you maximize the amount of accuracy you have, because it's not going to ride in the barrel or something. I don't even know how it starts right in the barrel. Maybe it just slowly drifts upward, I guess. But your airsoft guns move, so I don't know anything about that either. Basically, yeah. With the and they compress a little bit. So with my calculations on the thingamabob, you need a 1/4 inch thick, which is this right here. This is 1/4 of an inch, and a 3/16 of an inch thick one, and that's how you properly correct angle of engagement, because it needs to overshoot the number by a little bit, because one is going to permanently compress. Okay, I don't mean like it's going to compress. No, it's going to get squished, and when you pull it out, it's going to be like a shorter length than it was before, and while it's in there, it's going to be shorter. It's gonna push the piston back not as far the more you use it. So it needs to overshoot it significantly. So 1/4 of an inch thick sorbothane, that's on 70 duro. Okay, duro is the durability of it. The lighter the duro, like the lighter of it, the softer it is. Right. The lower the number of the duro, the softer it is. The higher the number of the duro, the harder it is. This is for 70 duro because I use a version 3 and I want performance, because version 3s last forever. Okay? They just do. And I don't really care that much about pistons. Pistons are cheap. But if you want to maximize your whatchamacallit, and you don't really care that much about performance, i.e. you don't really care that much about barrel length, this is the thing for you. What the thing is with these things is they get beat up by the piston. That's why you do the neoprene. Nobody really knows. The thing is with them is nobody really knows what the proper thing to do is, but that's my formula. Okay, so if your gun shoots 400 FPS and it's going to shoot 400 FPS and maybe 375 feet per second in like 2 years, that is the proper thing to do right there. That is it. Okay, so your FPS will lower with time. So that means your thing is going to be on there. It's going to be hitting it weaker. Okay, so it's going to be having like force on there, like, because when you stick a spring in a gun, it's compressed. You're compressing it because springs are actually a lot longer than stuff. Like they just go in there and they're already pre-compressed. I don't know why they do that. Basically, that 375 feet per second spring in there, the M120 that you had on there for like 2-3 years, it's gonna this thing is gonna slowly compress less and less. So it's gonna balance out a little bit. That's the balance part of it. But I correct my angle engagement with this. That's what it was. Very complex. Very few people will ever teach you any of this shit. Yeah. This thing, BB Weight. I am going to show you another link, and this is from one of my things. I have copy pastas. Where is this thing, Bob? Ooskabops. Ernie's Airsoft. Love this website. Oh yeah, and there was a joke right in here, if you didn't see, in my whatchamacallit. I'm not going to show you what it is, but basically, you just read this, you pause it, read it, blah, blah, blah. I'm impatient. So this is the time to target. People like to complain that with heavier BBs, the time to target is less, which it is not. It is not. Actually, it is less. That is correct, but that's at certain distances. Very certain distances. Basically, let me show you this. They intersect with a 0.25 at 50 feet versus a 0.20. They're the same velocity at 50 feet. And after 50 feet, the 0.25 is going at a higher velocity. Okay, it's this velocity, not joules, velocity. Joules, it's way higher. It's like, and then 0.20 is like this. Like it goes down like this and shit. It's hilarious. Basically, just look at that. Look at the difference from this and the difference from this. So this is to 300 feet. Okay, 300 feet. So let's say you're shooting 200 feet. So you cut this line right here. Look how much of an advantage 0.25 has over it. So at first, it's coming out of there slower. And then after that, it's coming out of there less. The 0.2 is coming out of there slower. But, you know, intersection. And now this is what he measured. That was the link. It was Arnie's Airsoft. And you just read this thing. It's going to be in the description. This is kick-ass. And basically this explains why you should use heavier BBs, even in just regular ass AEGs. And also, it's very difficult to feel a .20 out past 150 feet. The range of your gun should be 200 feet if your gun shoots 400 FPS, i.e. 1.5 joules, or if it has a range of 200 feet. It should have a range of 200 feet. That is the default, unless you do like CQB or something. And basically, you cut off 50 feet of your range with your garbage BBs. That and .25s are more accurate to all distances because they use, instead of retaining their energy in velocity, which is a factor that is not constant. Okay, it's not constant. It's linear. It's not a fucking variable. It's not x. It's the whole equation. Okay, it's gonna slowly decrease. That's where more of its force is located. So these are identical joules, right? Same gun. The 0.25 has its energy in something that is constant, i.e. weight. So guess which one is gonna last longer when it has a fucking constant force making its making its kinetic energy less, which is air resistance. And also the higher velocity of something, the higher air resistance it's going to have. I don't know, I read this in physics somewhere. Not really in physics, it's really off the internet. The faster something is, the more air resistance it gets. I mean, a lot more air resistance, like a lot more. It's not like it's not linear, it's exponential apparently. Like a 1 times air resistance, you get, I guess, 1 times air resistance and 1 times velocity. Well, if you multiply the velocity by 2, you get 4 times the air resistance you got when the velocity was at 1. Okay, so if you were to chart that, it'd look like this. It'd just be a fucking like water slide of death, like that. And that's why that's why like real guns are like I'm saying like way too much. They have like effective ranges and shit. It's because they're the velocity's slow and the bullets do different things at those velocities. And there's some weird shit in World War II. Here's a bit of trivia for you, completely pointless. Has nothing to do with the video. Tanks had effective ranges that were like from point blank to a certain range, and then this wouldn't be effective, and then it'd be effective over here because at this distance the thing would like explode from the kinetic energy, and over here it would go through the tank. Then over here it wouldn't really. It would be slowed down enough, I guess, to not go through the tank's armor as well, and then explode or some shit. Cool stuff. It's actually shaped charges. That's what they used back then. Shaped charges. Which is that's what made it do that. There's no explosives in it. It's just shaped like that, or something, or are there explosives in it? I don't really know. I clicked images twice, 3 times. Images. Give me images, you piece of shit. Detonator. Yeah, there we go. And yeah, that's what it is. shape charges. So go through the tank, wouldn't detonate at a medium distance. It'd be going so fast, kinetic energy would make it detonate, and it'd be going slow enough that the armor would we call that gravity, right? No. Decelerate. It'd make it decelerate fast enough for it to detonate. Yeah. Useless part of the video, extra like 2-3 minutes, but fun stuff. .28s are actually a lot better than .25s. They just are. They're a whole lot better. Like if you're to shoot at 200 feet, you would have to shoot 2 to 3 times just to make sure. With a .28, it'd be like 1 to 2 times. All right. That's a pretty big difference. That's what it took for me. Same brand. I'm using G&G .25s. I'm not really sure if their .25s are not as good as their .28s in material, whatever's. But G&G is already great. They have great 2.0s and the best 2.8s. Yeah, it would be safe to assume that they have pretty good .25s. And you assume, i.e. Occam's razor, like the simplest whatchamacallit, use Occam's razor to assume shit when there isn't any information, and there isn't information on that. You can't really find it. It's difficult. You could probably like set some stuff up. You have some money. Do an experiment. Let's see which BBs are the best. Yeah. .28s are a lot less affected by the wind than .25s. Like how this has all a bunch of shit on it. Like it transfers its kinetic energy with more. It transfers the same kinetic energy. Not the same, actually. It's more kinetic energy downrange because, same weight, higher velocity. It's going to be acted on with the wind a lot less. I don't know. You fucking Google it. Just Google it, dum-dum. Google it or go here or something. But, yeah. Time to target, it's not much less. Even at closer ranges because of this. Okay? And at fucking 60 feet, .28s start becoming faster than .20s, and I can explain this. I can definitely explain this to you. It's like this. Like that, and you just have it gets a little bit higher. Just a little bit, and that's the .28. Remember, outcomes are heavily influenced by incomes. If you didn't know that. Did you know that? When you have things that are affecting the shit out of it, like the butterfly effect. Yeah, it's basically like the butterfly effect. So it's got that. It all adds up, okay? And you're really fucking with big numbers. Like there's massive difference between .20 and .28. Huge. .20s will make it at 200 feet though, and they can be accurate at the 200 feet. They just have to be really, really expensive, like G&G .20s, which is fucking retarded. You just get their 2.8s. People feel them. Yeah, there we go. To 150 feet. Let me show you. .20s. Where's 60? This is in meters. Is there feet? Not meters. Whatever. What is 3? So a meter is 3.28 feet. And basically. 150. 150 divided by whatever. 45 meters. So 45 meters is find that on this thing. 45 meters. It took 1.1 seconds to hit 45 meters. Guess what? 1.0 seconds. This is with the .25. 200 feet. 200 feet. 100 feet. It takes less time to get there. Blew your fucking mind. There you go. That and it's better at closer ranges as well. You know why? You know how armor is rated to stop stop bullets going at certain velocities, right? And there's like brittleness and all this other stuff, but it's velocity, all right? And they have like a standard for brittleness as well, but they have a number on there. It's 2,800 feet per second. So you have AR 500, which is the original one was like the one that you get for $50. 50, 60 bucks. That's how much it costs. That's how much it costs. The actual plate, like for your front. It's ready to stop a 762 by 51. That's the cartridge. Going at 2,800 feet per second. It could take like 2,900, 3,000 feet per second ones, but that's like what the average ones will do, according to them. Okay, so if velocity is one of the factors that affects penetration, right? And all brittlenesses and shit, all impulses how much the object that you're hitting something squishes. Like, like you see a car and it squishes up. Well, that decreases the shit out of impulse. Impulse is what like kills you, because the car is slowing down. It's not gonna instantly stop, like, because you'd just be dead from the kinetic energy of that. Pretty much all BBs have the same impulse. So, velocity. Now, guess what? Heavier BBs are less likely to break goggles and shit because they're rated for velocity. And they actually are. They are. I've tested it out. The heavier BBs actually leave like less dents in the metal from point blank. Like, I've shot my my mask. I don't really have this like documented or something, but I have a mesh helmet. It's not like to prove I have a mesh helmet. But I shot the mesh helmet with my CML4A shooting 460 feet per second to .20s. That's what it was shooting when I got it out of the box. L120 springs are awesome. And then I shot it with a .25, then a .28, and the dent got smaller and smaller until it just didn't exist. That's the same kinetic energy, 1.5 joules. Did it with Vibro as well. It left like less dings on there with heavier BBs. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, it's going to have higher kinetic energy out to larger distances. But if your muzzle energy is not enough to penetrate that shit, okay? If it's not enough to penetrate goggles. Why did I correct myself? I said it wrong on purpose. It's from point blank muzzle distances, then do you think the velocity is going to get like longer or something? Like, do you think it's gonna speed up in the process? Because that's just retarded. It's not a fucking rocket, you dum-dum. It's not burning fuel to shoot, like, shit out of the back of it to make it go faster. It's not a car on a road. It's just an object being shot out. I don't know. People are stupid. That and it's going at a lot lower FPS. Let me show you the chart again. If I have it, fuck. Go. So let's say you have a 0.45 going at 1.52 joules, 270 feet per second. So that's going to penetrate something as much as a 200 FPS 0.2. It's actually going to be penetrating it more because it's got a lot more kinetic energy. Kinetic energy is a factor in it, but it's the same or less, okay? It's the same or less as the whatchamacallit, with the big factor in the thing being the whatchamacallit in the penetration. Oh yeah, and I was going to reference skin as well. Lighter BBs are more likely to penetrate skin. So if you want people bleeding less, you want people having like more welts than like doctor hospital visits to pull out a fucking airsoft BB from their elbow, then you'd use heavier BBs. Cause like that shit happens at close range all the time, especially with like sniper rifles and DMRs and stuff. That's why they have like big old medium engagement distances. It's so people don't tend to like wander into those places, you know? They can't make a mistake. You gotta like do math and shit, but yeah. It isn't really, it isn't just fields trying to keep people safe. It's fields trying to keep their insurance going, because insurance sets the rules. And the insurance does the cost-benefit analysis and be like, hey, how much can we profit from this? And then they figure out a number that they'll give you, and then they'll charge you for it, you know. The product, which is their number, and they'll charge you, which is the cost of their product. And the better the product, which is the closer the range, the higher the cost, and vice versa. Because who doesn't like getting shot up with an airsoft gun that's shooting at 2.32 joules? And what's the other one? 3.34 joules. Let's find that on here. 3.34 joules. 400 FPS with a .40. That is the same thing as 600 feet per second. Wowzers. Another modification. I went over barrels, then I skipped it. Here's the thing that I skipped, I guess. Methods of hop up. Look up R-hop and then look up this airsoft. Airsoft, how does R-hop work? Okay. Yeah. Pause, read. Pause, read. Yeah. R-hop. This is what it looks like. This is your barrel. This is what it looks like when it goes into your barrel. And they make sure it's the thickness of your barrel. Not the thickness. The thickness of your barrel, yeah. Which is 2 millimeters. Exactly 2 millimeters. So you get a tube that's 2 millimeters thick. Okay? 2 millimeters thickness. Which means its inside diameter is going to be 6 millimeters for the BB, right? The outside diameter is going to be 8 millimeters. What's 6 plus 8? 2. Right? I'm just kidding. It's actually 1 millimeter. Yeah. There goes the inside of buckings right here. If you didn't know what they look like all sorts of shit. Gotta get a picture of bucking over a barrel. But you know, it looks like it's like a condom. This goes right over there. Yeah. And these things make your gun shoot really far if you do them right. People like to do other things, like shave the rails on their. Let me show ya. Airsoft piston. Okay, you see how it's got these things on here, like, and some of them just go all around like this. Well, basically, sometimes, when people's pistons strip, you know, they break. They have to, get their piston head. They take it off of their piston, and they get a brand new piston. Okay? And sometimes the piston is a little bit too big. It's a little bit too big, and they just get a Dremel and go off, like that. Just like that. That's what they do. And it reduces the friction in between the gearbox and the gun. If you were to take a look at this picture, you'd see that there's some indents for rails. Okay, this goes inside, that goes outside, this goes inside. Okay? Okay, man. Okay. Yeah, man. And also, spring guide. See this? Get a steel one. They break less. You don't want a broke ass spring guide. That's stupid. That's gay. Don't get one. They're it's stupid. These are here to keep the spring from wobbling side to side a bit too much. Okay. They increase the FPS consistency in your gun because the spring is not trying to escape from your gun by like leaning against some shit, okay? And it already does lean against shit. That means it still needs improvement, all right? Okay, all right. We gotta get some tubes for it, okay? All right. And the tubes will really help. Okay? Alright? I'm just awful. Yeah. Since they're like polished really well, so the spring doesn't like have a lot of friction on it. I don't know. It's probably a new method to increase your RPS, rounds per second, by what's that word I was gonna say? By like lubricating this thing. But it's probably there isn't a guide for that yet. I doubt it. Maybe there is, and I don't look things up, which I don't. So there probably is a guide for it. But yeah. Yep. But what else is there? Some people like to do this thing with their contacts. I said again. Uh, I did another version of Basically, they get the Permatex dielectric grease, which is not electrically conductive. That means electricity can't go through it, and they put it over their contacts to minimize arcing, which is what happens with every contact. All of the contacts, MOSFETs, they like make arcing happen on a very tiny scale by dividing the whatchamacallit and having very tiny contacts happen to it. It's like a weird like mathematical thing that they do. Yeah, it clears the space, like the air space in between that, because air, you know how lightning goes through air. Well, lightning doesn't really go through objects. That's why it doesn't go through your house, right? It doesn't like go through a tree. If you're next to a tree that was hit by lightning, you're not dead, because the tree is bigger than you. It's that lightning's got a higher chance of hitting the tree and going to the ground and shit. Instead of hitting the tree and then it going through the branches and hitting you, because a space of air in between there. Well, basically, this is the same thing of that, but instead of doing that, it just goes like that. It's just not conductive. You'd be stupid to not figure out what I'm saying, and whatever, man. What is there? What else is there? Lubrication? You just get some Permatex dielectric grease for, oh yeah, this thing. This right here. This. Right here. The Teflon tape mod. I did say it. And that's on there. You can also glue your cylinder head to it. To the cylinder. To minimize the air escape. That's what I did. Got some cyanoacrylate. Stick some acetone on there. Yeah, you just stretch out your O-ring on the cylinder head. You take it off of there and stretch it out. But you're also supposed to stick some lubricant on this, inside of the thing, because what happens is oh yeah, this is the other thing. If you want to get good compression, i.e., minimize air leakage, the proper way to do the compression check thing. Airsoft compression check. Where they stick it in here and they're holding the nozzle and they're like, I gotta hear air leaks. Well, they're putting too much lube in there because if it does have that good of an air seal in there with you doing this, it most likely has a lot of friction. There's a lot of friction on there because it's a lot of lubricant, and you're just gonna be stripping sector gears all the time, just stripping all the sector gears. Which is what happened to me. I put too much lube in there to get that, because what happens is these things have holes in them. Airsoft piston head have holes in them, and the holes are behind. Guess what? They're behind the O-ring. Okay, not behind the O-ring. They're in this inner part, and the O-ring is around it. All right. And what happens is when you push it forward, the air goes into there, okay? It's compression. It's compressed air. It's going like that. It comes out of the gun. Guess what else is acting on that? And basically, this thing pushes it up against the piston. So if you actually want to check it, you just go really fast. As fast as you can, like that. And you're basically trying to imitate the the speed of the piston going at the high velocity that it does go at when the sector gear's teeth end. i.e. it's on the last tooth of the sector gear. You know, I did the MS Paint drawing. Here, it's right here on this tooth right here. So if you were to just do this, like that, it's on the last tooth of the sector gear, and the sector gear is turning like this, and it's like that, but it happens very quickly. I think it just flies, goes, and the air makes this thing expand real fast, like a parachute, basically. Yep. Switch choosing probably increases your compression as well. Makes your compression better. This Teflon tape mod, you have to make sure it's a flat surface. Like, you see how this thing is like lumpy and shit right here? Bad. This has to be flat because you want this thing to not have the mountains and like ridges and like valleys and trenches and shit. You don't want it to have that because the air is gonna escape through the trenches and shit. Okay. It's gonna do that. If you stick lubricant in there, lubricant is supposed to minimize that. But this is stupid, alright? You're not supposed to like stuff it up, I guess. There, it's dumb. Minimal. Use minimal. Because the glue fills the lubricant fills the rest of the space. I just use glue. I'm sorry, I just use glue, man. I think it's stupid. Some glue. And also, did you know that these things have two holes in place of them? Right here. That's what keeps them in place. Because there's a space between the gearbox, the front end of the gearbox, and the cylinder head. Also, if you want to upgrade your piston, I don't recommend it. It's stupid to do it like out of the box and just have like some piston that you were using in it previously, like the stock piston just laying around. Just use a stock piston, man. Then when it breaks, it's not really going to. It's just not. Like if you're using a gun that shoots 400 feet per second, 1.5 joules, right? What should happen is when you stick a sorbo on there, the piston should last like 900,000 rounds, or like a million rounds. That's the objective. That's why you go SEMA, by the way. Not SEMA. That's why you go AK, by the way, because the version 3s last longer than like 2 million rounds. It is due before the other front end pop off, because all of them have their front end pop off. And yeah, that's about it. Really, that is about it. I mean, I don't really know what to do, like what things to buy for lapping. I have no idea how to do it, but yeah. Also, yeah, barrels. You lap them. You lap them just like you lap the cylinder. You lap the barrel. Did you know that? It makes the mountains and trenches and shit. It minimizes them. It makes the terrain less. Like, you know how you have a Minecraft map and you have the terrain. Like, remember that modification that made the skyline really, really high, and then it let like the mountain stuff go really high, and then like sometimes go really low, and you know, like fuck, a wave. Let me show you. This the variance between the high points and the low points, like this. You want to minimize it. This is the stuff that's in your barrel. This is the person's barrel. So it's a perfect circle, as you can see. Very perfect circle. Whatever. What it does is, you know, it takes this shit off, and then it tries to fill this shit in. And guess which one of them is better for BBs to fly through? Guess which one? The one that's fucking lapped. Okay, dum-dum? Also, this is kick-ass. This is really kick-ass, but guess what the problem with this is? Oh, that's a piston head. That's a piston head. Damn. That's actually pretty cool. It's circular. Like this, like it's circle.
but it's also thick on the rim. So it's durable and it's circular. I don't know, it's probably like $200. Whatever. Um, this is cool, I guess. This is a bit cool. This keeps your gears all together, so you don't have to like have them flying around and shit. But you don't need this because when you do that thing, which is it's in the description, it's how to assemble a gearbox using a neodymium magnet, and you super glue the bearings into the gun, and basically the bearings are magnetic, not magnetic. They're conductive. They conduct electricity, and the gears also conduct electricity. And basically, what happens is the gears and the bearings, they stick together because of the neodymium magnet, and since the bearings are glued into the gun, it basically acts like the gears are all glued into the gun. So you don't need this if you know how to tech. This is for people who are lazy, which I am. I'd probably use one actually. Shimming? Shimming. You just get the cheap ones. Just get some cheap ones. Doesn't matter. What you use to shim is get your phone. You get your phone. You enable flash and you enable HDR, and you could I'm probably gonna have like some photos uploaded eventually. I'm gonna stick them in the description when they are uploaded. You take a picture of your gears, then you take a picture of the alignment in between them, and that's how you get like all close up. So that's if it's like slightly dark, like I can't see the difference, you know, like this. Flash and HDR, Dunsky. There's also the dental floss mod. Airsoft dental floss mod. I'm too far away to type. This is not the dental floss mod. This is the Teflon tape mod. I'd like to do both. I'm serious. I do both. I put the. This is retarded. This is so fucking stupid. Though to put on the bucking, this is actually good. This is good otherwise, but like whatever this is, barrel spacer, so your barrel doesn't wobble. It's not good. Like this is great. That's great. What I do, I just stick the dental floss on there, and then I put the Teflon tape on there. Yeah, that's just what I do, man. I also lubricate it. Dielectric grease, Permatex. And basically, the air that escapes from this minimizes. And another thing that you do is some other thing. I forgot what it was as well. You know, maybe okay. Airsoft compensator. That's not it. I tried to say a hop up in the gearbox, but it didn't work. The hop up actually contacts the gearbox. You know that? It does that. And what people do is stick an O-ring right in the back over here. Like right here in the back. And yeah, that's just what it does, man. This is just what it fucking does. There's an O-ring, and the hop-up is pushed up against the gearbox. It's pushed up on there. Some guns have a spring like this to push it up against there, but yeah, that's just what they do. And the hop-up goes right there. There's the O-ring right there. Put it right there. And the pot metal part of this thing, like see a little, like there's the thing right here, and it's like shaped like this, and the O-ring goes over it, and this part sticks out. Well, that thing goes like into the gearbox. I shit you not, it goes in there. See that? See a little spot right there? That's where it goes. And you stick some lubricant on there. That's one of the modifications you do. Another one, if you have an AK, what you do is you stick an O-ring on this screw right here, or the screw on the other side. There's another one, and it increases the friction between it, and it's so the slider thing. It's so the slider thing doesn't. I was gonna say something. Doesn't move as much because of the friction. So you get a more consistent hop. I don't think that's that much of a difference unless you're like lobbing things like past your effective range. Yep. You could probably get an O-ring and stick it on there for all I give a shit. Put it right there too, because this actually goes into the magazine, believe it or not. Who would have thought it goes into the magazine? There's enough space in there for it, and it just does. And also, you have to have the bucking behind the C-clip. Bucking goes like it stops here and starts like right over here, right here. This is where the bucking starts. This is where it ends. This isn't a realistic whatchamacallit. I think I'm not really sure. And the C clip goes around the barrel, and what happens is where'd my barrels go? Where'd my R-hop barrels go? Um, oh, oh, getting close, closer. Yes, there it goes. See that little notch right there? That's where the C clip goes, and it keeps the barrel right in place. There we go. There probably isn't anything other than that. Oh yeah, M nubs. M nubs. Shit. Okay. Airsoft. Fuck. Airsoft. How do hop-ups work? Airsoft. How do hop-ups work? To get in here, it needs to have a hole inside of the whatchamacallit. See how there's a line right here and a line right here, and it's got a line right here and here and here. Well, there's the whatchamacallit that goes in here. Guess what? Guess what you do? This thing's actually a lot bigger than what you think. So what people do is they make an eraser, and they get the hop-up arm and they like shave it or some shit and they make it flat. Whatever. I don't do that. I just stick it right on there. And what happens is, drum roll. There's actually even a bigger hole in the barrel as well. So there's just like empty space here, here, and here. And what it does is drum roll. I'm just kidding. It applies pressure onto the BB larger, like a larger whatchamacallit, like it's flatter, a lot flatter, and for a longer distance, which makes it more stable. Apparently, that's how our hop works. See, the contact point is able to move a little bit. It's this little place. Well, this thing just doesn't move. So, yeah. Yeah, look. She just moves around. This also can move around. Doesn't make a difference. It's just going to move around and have 2 points of contact. This one's going to move around and have 1. Take a look at that. That's how the Magnus effect works. If you didn't know. That's why you get good BBs. It's good BBs proven to be more accurate. It's really just how many shots you use on people. Really, how much money you spend a game. That's what it is. It's how much money you spend a game, i.e., battery life, or like if you're factoring in how much electricity costs to charge your batteries, or what's that word I was gonna say? How much the individual BBs cost. You calculate that as well. You divide the amount of BBs by the cost of it. So let's say you get 3,500. Actually, not 3,500. I love how I got my calculator and it just closed itself, and it was like on the other screen. So 3,750 BBs, and you bought that for $17. You factored in shipping and everything. Well, $1 is 220 BBs. Okay, so if you went through half of your AK high cap, you spent more or less $1. Even though AK high caps are like 250 to 300 rounds, like that's what half of them would be. They hold about like 500 to 600 BBs. If you get an RPK high cap, it's 800 BBs. So you go through half of that. That's
You know, what's half 800? What is that number? 400. So you spent $2 going through half of that. That's with two eights. Not good, man. Not good. That adds up. That's one day, and/or one game. Not good. Not good. And yeah, that's how you factor that in. So it's quality versus quantity. You know. So if you get a lot of cheap BBs and you spend less on them because you sure you miss a lot more with them, but you spend a lot less money per game because you just, oh look, I can do this and stuff. Yeah, it's great too. You know, supporting fire is fucking awesome. That's probably why you use Elite Force .28s, because supporting fire, because they're cheap as hell. But I'm not a supporting fire guy. My AK, even though it shoots 200 feet right now, what I do like being able to land shots, because that's like what matters. I like to have my BBs go perfectly straight, just perfectly straight, just straight across the field, and like I hit some guy in his hand from exactly 200 feet away. I love that. Using the sights too, or doing that thing where you what's that thing called? Like you shoot over here and you see the BBs there, and you like pull your gun all the way up to here, and that's where the guy's at. Like here's the tree, and the BB's landing here, like, and you hit him in the hand. That stuff.
There's also an optimal rate of fire as well, which is I haven't really figured it out yet. But basically, if your rate of fire is too high, you can't really do supporting fire as well as in like shoot at cover and have someone not get out of the cover because they're like too scared, or like they're like, I'm gonna get hit. But it's just like the tank thing. Some places it's good, some places it's not good, you know. And it really depends on your field, like what their psychology on this shit is. So you have to math it up, because at some points it's gonna be too fast, and you're gonna be wasting ammo, like way too much ammo. And sometimes it's gonna be too slow, and they're just not gonna give a shit. And sometimes it's gonna be so fast that it just be not worth it at all, even though they got all that shit going. They'd be like, the time to target really affects this, and you can't really do it from a long range. You know, that stuff.